Hello everyone! 지나입니다. 한국을 갔다 와서는 오랫동안 영상을 못 올렸네요. 그래서 오늘 이렇게 Charlie and the Chocolate Factory 잭과 함께 영상을 찾아왔습니다. 그럼 지금부터 이야기 세계로 출발! Chapter 21 Goodbye Violet. This gum, Mr. Wonka went on, is my latest, my greatest, my most fascinating invention. It's a chewing gum meal. It's that tiny little strip of gum lying there is a whole 3-course dinner all by itself. What sort of the nonsense is this? Said one of the fathers. My dear sir, cried Mr. Wonka, when I start selling the gum in the shops, it will change your everything. It will be the end of all kitchens and all cooking. There'll be no more shopping to do, no more buying of meat and groceries. There'll be no knives and forks at mealtimes, no plates, no washing up, no rubbish, no mess, just a little strip of Wonka's magic chewing gum. And that's all you'll never need at breakfast, lunch, and supper. This piece of gum I just have made happens to be tomato soup, roast beef, and blueberry pie, but you can have almost anything you want. What do you mean it's tomato soup, roast beef, and blueberry pie? Said Violet Bergrid. If you were to start chewing it, said Mr. Wonka, then that is exactly what you get on the menu. It's absolutely amazing. You can actually feel the food going down your throat and into your tummy. And you can taste it perfectly, and it fills you up. It satisfies you. It's terrific. It's oddly impossible, said Barry Cassault. Just so long as it's gum, shouted Violet Bergrid. Just so long as it's a piece of gum and I can chew it, that's for me. And quickly she took her own word record piece of chewing gum out of her mouth and stuck it behind her left ear. Come on, Mr. Wonka, she said. Hand over this magic gum of yours and we'll see if the thing works. Now, Violet, said Mrs. Bergrid, her mother, now let's do anything silly, Violet. I want the gum, Violet said obstinately. What's so silly? I'd rather you didn't take it, Mr. Wonka told her gently. You see, I haven't got it quite right yet. There's still 1 or 2 things. Oh, to blaze with that, said Violet, and suddenly, before Mr. Wonka could stop her, she shot out a fat hand and grabbed a stick of gum out of the little drawer and popped it into her mouth. At once, her huge red train jaws started chewing away on it like a pair of tongues. Don't, said Mr. Wonka. Fabulous, shouted Violet. It's tomato soup. It's hot and creamy and delicious. I can feel it running down my throat. Stop, said Mr. Wonka. The gum isn't ready yet. It's not right. Of course it's right, said Violet. It's working beautifully. Oh my, what lovely soup this is. Spit it out, said Mr. Wonka. It's changing, shouted Violet, chewing and grinning both at the same time. The second course is coming up. It's roast beef. It's tender and juicy. Oh boy, what a flavor! The baked potato is marvelous too. It's got a crispy skin and it's all filled with butter inside. But how is interesting, Violet, said Mrs. Bergrid. You are a clever girl. Keep chewing, baby, said Mr. Bergrid. Keep right on chewing. This is a great day for the Bergrids. Our little girl is the first person in the world to have a chewing gum meal. Everybody was watching Violet Bergrid as she stood there chewing this extraordinary gum. Little Charlie Bucket was staring at her absolutely spellbound, watching her huge rubbery lips as they pressed and unpressed with the chewing. And Grandpa Joe stood beside him, gaping at the girl. Mr. Wonka was wringing his hands and saying, No, 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 no! It isn't ready for eating. It isn't right. You mustn't do it. Blueberry pie and cream, shouted Violet. Here it comes. Oh my, it's perfect. It's beautiful. It's exactly as though I'm swallowing it. It's as though I'm chewing and swallowing great big spoonfuls of the most marvelous blueberry pie in the world. Good heavens, girl! Shrieked Mrs. Bergrid suddenly, staring at Violet. What's happening to your nose? Oh, be quiet, mother, and let me finish, said Violet. It's turning blue, screamed Mrs. Bergrid. Your nose is turning blue as a blueberry. Your mother is right, shouted Mr. Bergrid. Your whole nose had gone purple. What do you mean? Said Violet, still chewing away. Your cheeks! Screamed Mrs. Bergrid. They're turning blue as well, so is your chin. Your whole face is turning blue. Spit the gum out at once, ordered Mr. Bergrid. Mercy save us, yelled Mrs. Bergrid. The girl's going blue and purple all over. Even her hair's changing color. Violet, you're turning violet. Violet? What is happening to you? I told you I hadn't got it quite right, sighed Mr. Wonka, shaking his head sadly. Oh, say you haven't, cried Mrs. Bergrid. Just look at the girl now. Everybody was staring at Violet, and what a terrible peculiar sight she was. Her face and hands and legs and neck, in fact the skin all over her body, as well as her great big mop of the curly hair, had turned a brilliant purplish blue, the color of the blueberry juice. It always goes wrong when it came to the desserts, sighed Mr. Wonka. It's the blueberry pie that does it, but I'll get it right one day. You wait and see. Violet, screamed Mrs. Bergrid, you're swelling up. I feel sick, Violet said. You're swelling up, screamed Mrs. Bergrid again. I feel most peculiar, gasped Violet. I'm surprised, said Mr. Bergrid. Great heavens, girl, screamed Mrs. Bergrid. You're blowing up like a balloon. Like a blueberry, said Mr. Wonka. Call the doctor, shouted Mr. Bergrid. Prickle with a pin, said one of the other fathers. Save her, cried Mrs. Bergrid, wringing her hands. But there was no saving her now. Her body was swelling up and changing shape at such a rate that within a minute it had turned into nothing less than an enormous brown blue ball, a gigantic blueberry. In fact, and all that remained after Violet Bergrid herself was a tiny pair of legs, and a tiny pair of arms sticking out of the great round fruit, and a little hat on top. It always happens like that, sighed Mr. Wonka. I tried the 20 lamps in the testing room on the 20 Oompa Loompas. Every one of them finished up as a blueberry. It's most annoying. I just can't understand it. But I don't want a blueberry for a daughter, yelled Mrs. Bergrid. Put her back to what she was sitting instead. Mr. Wonka clicked his fingers, and 10 Oompa Loompas appeared immediately at his side. Roll Miss Bergrid into the boat, he said to them, and take her along to the juicing room at once. The juicing room? Cried Mrs. Bergrid. What are they going to do her there? Squeeze her, said Mr. Wonka. We got to squeeze the juice out of her immediately. After that, we just have to see how she comes out. But don't worry, my dear Mrs. Bergrid. We'll get her repaired if it's the last thing we do. I'm sorry about it all, I really am. Already, the 10 Oompa Loompas were rolling the enormous blueberry across the floor of the meeting room towards the door that led to the chocolate river where the boat was waiting. Mr. and Mrs. Bergrid hurried after them. The rest of the party, including little Charlie Bucket and Grandpa Joe, stood absolutely still and watched them go. Listen, whispered Charlie. Listen, Grandpa, the Oompa Loompas in the boat outside are starting to sing. The voices, 100 of them singing together, came loud and clear into the room. 제가 음치여가지고 노래하는 부분 정말 제외하겠습니다. 자, Chapter 22. Along the corridor. Whoa, 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 said Mr. Willy Wonka. 2 naughty little children gone. 3 good little children left. I think we better get out of the room quickly before we lose anyone else. But Mr. Wonka, said Charlie Buckets anxiously, will Violet Bergrid ever be all right again, or will she always be a blueberry? They'll juice her in no time flat, declared Mr. Wonka. They'll roll her into the juicing machine, and she'll come out just as thin as a whistle. But will she still be blue all over? Asked Charlie. She'll be purple, cried Mr. Wonka. A fine rich purple from the head to toe. But there you are. That's what comes from chewing disgusting gum all day long. If you think gum is so disgusting, said Mike Tippy, then why do you make it in your factory? I do wish you'd mumble, said Mr. Wonka. I can't hear a word you're saying. Come on, off you go. Hurry up, follow me. You're going to the corridors again. And so saying, Mr. Wonka scuttered across to the full end of the emitting room and went out through a small secret door hidden behind a lot of pipes and stoves. The three remaining children, Veruca Salt, Mike TV, and Charlie Bucket, together with the 5 remaining grown-ups, followed after him. Charlie Bucket said that they were now back in one of those long pink corridors with many other pink corridors leading out of it. Mr. Wonka was rushing along in front, turning left and right and left. And Grandpa Joe was saying, "Keep a good hold of my hand, Charlie. It would be terrible to get lost in here." Mr. Wonka was saying, "No time for any more messing about. We'll never get anywhere at the rate we've been going." And Umbi rushed down the endless pink corridors with his black top hat perched on the top of his head, and his plum-colored velvet coat tails flying out behind like a flag into the wind. They passed the door in the wall. "No time to go in!" shouted Mr. Wonka. "Press on, press on!" They passed another door, then another and another. There were doors every 20 paces or so along the corridor now, and they all had something written on them. And strange clanking noises were coming from behind several of them, and delicious smells came wafting through the keyholes, and sometimes little jets of the color steam shot out from the cracks underneath. Grandpa Joe and Charlie were half running and half walking to keep up with Mr. Wonka. They were able to read what it said on the quite few of the doors as they hurried by. "Edible marshmallow pillows," it said on one. "Marshmallow pillows are terrific," shouted Mr. Wonka as he dashed by. "They'll be all the rage when I get them into the shops. No time to go in, though. No time to go in." "Lickable wallpaper for nurseries," it said on the next door. "Lovely lickable wallpaper," cried Mr. Wonka, rushing past. It had pictures of fruits on it: bananas, apples, oranges, grapes, pineapples, strawberries, and snozzberries. "Snozzberries?" Mike TV. "Don't interrupt," said Mr. Wonka. "The wallpaper has pictures of all these fruits printed on it. And when you lick the picture of the banana, it tastes of the banana. When you lick a strawberry, it tastes of the strawberry. And when you lick a snozzberry, it tastes just exactly like a snozzberry." "But what does a snozzberry taste like?" "You're mumbling again," said Mr. Wonka. "Speak louder next time. On we go. Hurry up." "Hot ice creams for cold days," it said on the next door. "Extremely useful in the winter," said Mr. Wonka, rushing on. "Hot ice cream warms you up and no end in freezing weather. I also make hot ice cubes of the pudding in hot drinks. Hot ice cubes make hot drinks hotter." "Cows that give chocolate milk," it said on the next door. "Oh, my pretty little cows," cried Mr. Wonka. "How I love those cows." "But why can't you see them?" asked Veruca Salt. "Why do we have to go rushing and past all these lovely rooms?" "We shall stop in time," called out Mr. Wonka. "Don't be so madly impatient. Fizzy lifting rings," he said on the next door. "Oh, those are fabulous!" cried Mr. Wonka. "They fill you with bubbles, and the bubbles are full of the special kind of gas. And this gas is so terrifically lifting that it lifts you right off the ground just like a balloon. And up you go until your head hits the ceiling, and there you stay." "But how do you come down again?" asked little Charlie. "You do a brave, of course," said Mr. Wonka. "You do a great big long root, and up comes the gas and down comes you. But don't drink it outdoors. There's no knowing how high up you'll be carried if you do that. I gave to an old Loompa Loompa once out in the backyard, and we went up and disappeared out of sight. It was very sad. I never saw him again." "We should have Bert," Charlie said. "Of course we should have Bert," said Mr. Wonka. I stood there shouting, "Bert, you silly ass, Bert, or you never come down again." But he didn't or couldn't or wouldn't. I don't know which. Maybe he was too polite. He must be on the moon by now. On the next door, it said, "Squirrel sweets that looked round." "Wait!" cried Mr. Wonka, skidding suddenly to a halt. "I'm very proud of my squirrel sweets that look round. Let's take a peek." 끝났습니다. 오늘 또 챕터 2개를 읽었거든요. 그리고 제가 마지막으로 할 말이 있는데 제가 지어가지고 찰리 앤드 초콜릿 팩토리에서 노래 부르는 장면들이 좀 나와요. 그래서 그 부분들은 노래를 제외하겠습니다. 그러면 안녕, 바이바이, 바이바이.